All right. So step one is you need to know who your overall target market is. Your overall target market. In other words, who are all the people you might sell to? Everyone you might sell to. And the reason you need to know this is stop trying to sell to them. You cannot sell to everybody all the time. As a matter of fact, consider this little marketing assignment. I would like you to imagine that I come to this side of the room and I say, guys, I want you all to come up with a marketing campaign, and I'd like you to design a marketing campaign for every single person in Estonia. Every age, every sex, every religious position, every political leaning. You have to come up with one campaign that appeals to everyone. Get to work. Now, you guys, I'd like you to come up with a marketing campaign. All the way to the back, I want you to come up with a marketing campaign for my friend Jim Smith. Jim Smith is a mid-level manager at a manufacturing firm. He's married, he has 3 children. He enjoys ice fishing, cross-country skiing, bowling, and he's heavily interested in nature conservation. Please come up with a marketing campaign for Jim Smith. Is this fair? No, these guys have an impossible task. There's no way you can do it. They have a task so ridiculously easy, they have to go look up Jim on Facebook and they can engage him in 5 minutes because they know about him, right? Here's the thing. Most of the companies around the world are doing this. I mean, okay, they're not trying to appeal to the whole country at the same time, but they are trying to appeal to all of their prospects and all of their clients with one marketing campaign, one idea. And so first we figure out who are all the people we would like to sell to, and then the second step is we say, now for this particular marketing campaign, who is our ideal target market? Who are the specific people that we would like to sell to in this instance? See, inception marketing, which is what I'm teaching you right now, is at its very core a strategic marketing methodology. Most people's marketing is very tactical. It's like, I have to design this ad or design this web page, and it's just about what makes that look good and how can we talk about our products. No. Inception marketing is strategic. So in order to get strategic, we have to know our target. And the first thing is who is our ideal target market? So I'm going to use a live example. This is a client and a friend of mine came to me and he said, I'm running a wedding photography company in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And he says, I've been doing it for 20 years and we're doing very well. The challenge we have right now is that there are people landing on the island who've decided they would like to live here too. And they want to live on our island, but there are no jobs. But they notice that people are getting married on the beach and getting pictures taken. So now they have a camera. Why can't they be a photographer? So they start up competitive companies. And he's struggling because they're cheaper than him by a long shot because they aren't using real cameras, they don't have staff. It's not remotely fair. Now, many times when a client comes to me and tells me they have a new competitor that's undercutting them, I say let them. Let them, because they'll come back. Very often, if somebody goes off to one of your competitors, if you're a superstar, if you do a great job, they'll just come back. That doesn't work with wedding photography. I mean, think about it. It doesn't, does it? I mean, even if there is a second marriage, okay, men, like imagine this. Women, your groom, you're getting married, and the groom comes up to you and says, honey, listen, I've been thinking, last time we got married in Turks and Caicos, when I married my first wife, why don't we get married there as well? Is that ever going to work? No. In fact, what if they even changed it and said, honey, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about our wedding pictures, and when I got married last time, you remember to that other woman that you hate? Well, why don't we use the same photographer I used at my last wedding? There's only one thing she wants there from the previous wedding. You. Even your relatives are a little questionable. So what I'm getting at now, where was I going with that? The brides. So with the wedding, when I'm talking about this guy setting up competitive companies, here's the problem, is that he cannot rely on them coming back. He has to save them from going to a bad photographer in the first place. He cannot rely on them coming back. And the problem is they have websites that look just like his website. So they pick up the phone, they get a quote, they go with the cheaper company, and they don't learn about their mistake until after the wedding. And it sucks. It's bad for him, bad for them. So he says, we need to come up with a way of dealing with that. And I said, okay, who's your ideal target market? I said, first, who's your overall target market? He goes, anyone getting married. And that's the whole wedding party. It could be anybody. Could anybody in the wedding party be helping with the photography or finding a photographer? Sure. Could the father of the bride be doing research on the photographer? Sure. Who is usually doing it, though? It's actually the bride. So we know the overall target market is everyone, but the ideal target market is the bride. That's the first place we want to go. So that's very important for us to know. Because if we were going to design an ad for the bride or design an ad for the groom, would we want to use the same ad to appeal to both of them? Would we? No. But you see, don't we though? That's what we're doing right now. Most of us design one ad or one brand or one landing page or one basic pitch for whatever product or service we're selling. And instead I'm saying no, we get clear and strategic that we have to know our ideal target market. In this case, it's the bride. So once we know that, now we have to dig into our ideal target market's values. Their values. What's important to them? What's important to your ideal target market? This is not about you. I don't care about your product right now. I don't care about your service. I don't care about your company. I care about your customer, your prospect. What's important to them? You got to break the thinking. It's not about you anymore. It is about them. So let's figure it out. What's important to the bride? Tell me. Yep, they want to look good. Is that true? Yeah. What else is important to her? The price? Yeah, no, not so much. Honestly, it really isn't. I had my practice marriage, and then I had another marriage, and my experience so far is that price is not the most important thing to them on the day. So what is most important? If you could put it in one word, what do they want that day?
No mistake.
Memories? No. What's that? Quality? Quality? Yeah, yeah. I'm going to ask one more question before I give you the answer to this. Women only, how old were you the first time you visualized yourself walking down the aisle? The first time you saw yourself in a wedding gown? The first time you fantasized about getting married? How old were you? Shout out some ages. Come on.
14.
What? 14? Anybody else? Come on.
One question, one answer is enough.
No, it isn't, because you need to hear this, that what's happening is there anybody here who remembers like under 10 years old thinking about getting married as a girl? There's a few people nodding. They don't want to. And here's the thing. I ask this question all over the world. I get from 4 to about 15, and in Norway I get the occasional 26. But it's from 4 to 15 every time. Now, men, how old were you? Yeah. Well, I woke up that morning. I suddenly realized what was going on. I'm just pointing out that, you see, if we have one ideal target market is the bride and the groom thinks differently. So the marketing has to be different. See, this is what's so important here. This is why it's strategic. So we've said that the bride, we've said that she might have been thinking about this since she was a girl. Let me tell you, I'll tell you in one word what she wants for that day. And women, if I'm wrong, you tell me. Here's what she wants on that day. Perfection. Is that just about right? Yeah. They want perfection. Men, what do you want from that day? Survival. Survival. To make it through the day. It's a different mentality. It's a totally different mentality. So that means that if we were designing ads for them, we want a different ad. So for example, imagine that I've got 1,000 brides to be. Well, wait, we have to back up a minute. Because, see, I said to my friend Andy, I said, well, wait a second. You can't wait until they're already looking for a photographer, because if you wait till they're already looking, then they're going to find your cheap competitors. We have to get to them early. Is that true? I said, okay, tell me something. What stage is the photographer in the whole process? And he says it's actually quite late. It's not something that, unless they have a celebrity photographer in mind, it's usually quite late. It's not, like for example, he says they pick the resort way earlier. I said, well, how, when do they pick the resort? And they said usually just before they pick the groom. So again, they know what they want. So that means, wait a minute, what if we bought Google AdWords that said wedding resort Turks and Caicos? Would we get their attention weeks early? Could we? Yeah, because they're searching for the resort. They're not thinking about photography. So guess what my friend Andy said? He says, Eric, I've already tried that. I said, yes, but here's what I think you tried. You bought the AdWords to get in early, but then you put up an ad that said, world-class wedding photography. And nobody clicked it. And he goes, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I said, well, let's try a different version. Let's say the bride is in there and she's typing in wedding resorts, Turks and Caicos. Boom, the results come up and an ad comes up in the window. And it says, brides, there are 7 mistakes every bride makes that she regrets within a week of her wedding, and I'm going to teach you how to avoid them. What happens now? Do we get some clicks? It's a totally different experience because we've just done step 4, which is to engage them. We engage them. We give them a headline or we give them an ad that brings them in. Remember, she wants perfection that day. You tell her there are 7 common mistakes that might ruin her day, and you're going to teach her how to avoid them. She's in. Women, is that true? Yeah, you guys are so talkative. It's incredible to me. It's amazing. By the way, how about men? Men, here's something fascinating. Men, honestly, I joke about survivability, but what do you really want from that day? What do you really want from that day, truthfully?
Bride to be happy.
The bride to be happy. Men, is that true?
Yes.
That's the fundamental truth. By the way, what do we want for the rest of our wedding, the rest of our marriage? Bride to be happy. I know, women, it doesn't look like we want that, but it is. It is what we want. I know we do stuff that doesn't make sense, but that is what we want. Happy wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life. So that's what we want. That's a fundamental core to us. I mean, I'll tell you that the way to think of it is that men are like solar panels, and when the sun is out, we can generate energy. And when the sun goes away, life becomes difficult. Is that true? We want our wives to be happy, and that's when the sun is shining. And so if I was designing an ad now to appeal to grooms who might be looking for photography, I might say, men, between now and your wedding, there are 23 things you're going to do to upset your bride. Let me stop you now. Are men going to be interested? Yeah, because it's appealing to them. It's appealing to their psychology. So this is what I mean by strategic. We stop thinking about us and brand, oh, let me talk about all my great features and benefits of how great my photography is. No, we talk to them about them. And let me ask you a question. Let's say we all got together and did some group photographs from this event. Yes, group photographs. And then we put them on Facebook, and then you saw that the photograph popped up on Facebook. Which is the first face you're going to look for? Your own. Me. It's the way it is. And so you have to do that for them. You have to talk about them. You have to talk about what's interesting to them. Stop talking about your stuff. Remember, the minute you start talking about your stuff, they're not hearing it anyway. Because they're filtering it out because there's so much rubbish out there. So now I'm talking about what's important to them. I've engaged them. And by the way, let's imagine that I have 1,000 brides in the room. And they're all at different stages. Some of them are 2 years away from their wedding. Some of them are 2 weeks away from their wedding. Then what percentage of them are looking for a photographer? We already know this. What percentage are actively right now looking? 3%, right? So now I stand up at the front of the room and I go, ladies, I'm so glad that you're here. Today I will be talking about world-class wedding photography. 3% will stay. And by the way, not the whole 3% because some of them have already hired a photographer. So a smaller percentage of they're going to stay, the 3% plus some that might be interested. Maybe I get 5 or 10%, maybe. Instead, I stand up there and I go, ladies, I'm so glad that you're here. There are 7 mistakes women commonly make that they regret within a week of their wedding, and I'm going to teach you how to avoid them. How many stay for the presentation? All of them. Do you get the difference? The ones who are not married. Yeah, all of them are going to stay. And by the way, think about this. When we say all of them are going to stay, does that include the women who have already bought photography?
Yes.
Does that mean I have a chance to get them to switch? Are you getting why we want to be strategic? You have just opened up, instead of pitching to 50 to 100 people, you're pitching to 1,000 people. And instead of pitching to 1,000 people, you're pitching to everybody that's available. They're interested, they're engaged. So, but here's the problem. What's the biggest mistake we could make right now? We've engaged them. What mistake could we make?
Start selling.
Start selling. And by the way, you see this all the time. People are learning this. They're learning to use engagement pitches, and then you land on their page and it's a sales page. And so boom, you're gone. Right? So what we have to do is we have to do something very, very basic, and that is that we have to deliver upon the promise. We have to deliver on the promise we made in the engagement pitch, and we do that by delivering an inceptive story. An inceptive story. Now, I use the word story because every inceptive story will have stories in it. The one I used with the Bushman was a story. The whole thing was a story with facts inside it. Sometimes an inceptive story is a series of facts with stories inside them. The fact is that we're using a series of mechanisms to get the client. Let me tell you exactly what an inceptive story is. You might want to write this down. An inceptive story is a story that your clients or your prospects want to hear. An inceptive story is a story that your prospects want to hear. They want to hear it, and it will subtly move them. It will subtly move them to the realization that they both want and need your product or service. It will subtly move them to the realization that they both want and need your product or service, and that they should preferentially buy it from you. And that they should preferentially buy it from you. So let's break this down. An inceptive story is a story they have to want to hear. If they don't want to hear it, they're not going to hear it. There are too many choices for people out there today. There are too many distractions. I'm amazed. We walk along, and I was walking through the airport the other day, and I'm walking along on my phone like this, and I'm going, oh God, I'm one of those people that's walking along looking at my phone. And I thought, I must look a complete idiot. And I put my phone down, looked around, everyone was doing it. It's no longer idiotic. It's the way we are. We're so constantly distracted. So they have to want to hear it. Then it has to subtly move them. Subtly move them. Not push them, not persuade them. It has to subtly move them. With the Bushman story, what happens for some people is different people at different points go, oh, I might want to try that. Particularly runners. They go, oh, it subtly moves them to the realization that they both want and need. Not just want and not just need. You know, I know I pick on the men-women thing at times, but I'll tell you something. Being a man is sometimes a little bit challenging, because is it true that sometimes women tell you what they want when it's different than what they really need? Does that happen? Yeah. For example, the example, I used it before. When you ask your wife what's wrong and she says nothing. Well, what she really meant was nothing unless you really love me and you're going to sit here and help me figure it out and let me talk about it. Is that about right? Right? But we hear nothing and we walk away. So in that moment, if you heard nothing, then in a sense, it feels like what your wife wanted was peace and quiet. Because, by the way, if a man says nothing, what does he want? Nothing. You know, so let's just move on, right? Well, so, you know, this idea of want and need are interesting, because we don't always know exactly what we want. We don't always know exactly what we need. But here's what we do know. If you want something, you might buy it, but you might not keep it. If you need something, even if you need it, you won't buy it unless you want it too. Unless it's legally mandated. Do you guys have to have car insurance here? Yeah. You don't buy it because you want to. You buy it because you need to, and the government makes you want to. Right? But otherwise, you don't buy stuff on need. You buy it on want and need. And so your story has to move them to the realization they both want and need your product or service. And finally, that they should preferentially buy it from you. And so how do we do that? Well, inside our inceptive story, we're going to do some things. We are going to make sure that we build credibility. That we build credibility. So credibility means that people will listen to you. If you are credible, then people will listen to you. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, it does make sense. By the way, I'll tell you, one of the reasons I want a response is it engages your mind more. I want you to remember this stuff. I mean, in one sense, it's really great for me if you don't remember it, because then what you'll have to do is you'll have to come buy the products from us later. But I really actually do want you to remember it, because I want you to use it. So that's why I'm asking. So if you have credibility, then people will listen. Now, you want to go from credibility to authority. To authority. Now, here's the difference between credibility and authority. If you have credibility, people will listen. If you have authority, they will take your advice and take action. Does that make sense? Do some of you right now have clients where if you tell that client to do something, they will do that thing? You want that with everyone. And the problem is most of us have that with a few people. We don't know how we created it. It kind of happened, right? No, now we get strategic and we say we're going to create it. Well, one of the ways that we create authority and credibility is with what we call facts and stats. Facts and statistics. And these are researched facts and statistics. We don't make stuff up. We don't do Google research. We get real documented research, because the last thing you want to do is be using some marketing, a video, a presentation, an ad, it doesn't matter, and you quote something and it turns out that something is wrong. That will hurt your credibility and authority. Does that make sense? Hello? So facts and stats. to create credibility and authority. And then we also want to create what we call reciprocity. I'm going to define this since some of you might. Do you guys know what I mean, reciprocity? No. Reciprocity is that feeling you get when somebody does something for you. So if I do something for you, then don't you feel like you have to do something back? He's like, no, I don't have that. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We all have it to some degree. In fact, it's hardwired into primates. I saw this really funny video. I mean, it's not funny because animal experiments are way wrong. It still was a little cute, though. I hate to admit it. They had these like monkeys, and they were doing a thing where the monkeys, if they did a trick, they would get a carrot. Do the trick, get a carrot. Do a trick, little piece of carrot. And then they had two of them in cages side by side. And then suddenly they switched. So the one monkey, when he did the trick, got a grape insteed of the carrot. So then the other monkey, he looks over and he goes, oh, cool, and he does the trick, gets a carrot, takes the carrot and throws it. Until it was all carrots, he was fine. Now that there's grapes on the table, fairness is built into us. It's a primate thing. And so when somebody does something for you, you feel like giving it back. So we want to do such a good job with our marketing that it creates a sense of reciprocity. Here's how that works. Imagine you're the bride, and I come along and go, the 7 mistakes. Mistake number 1, bam. Mistake number 2, bam. Every time I tell you a mistake that you were maybe going to make, and you go, and you visualize and you go, oh my God, I was going to make that mistake. Holy cow, I am so grateful you just gave me this information. Am I creating a little reciprocity with her? No question about it. Every time I give her one of these pieces of information I've promised her, and she goes, holy, that means something to me, thank you. Every time I do that, I'm creating more reciprocity. If she feels like she needs to give back to me, do you think that might affect where she buys? Do you think? Yes. So she has a choice between 2 photographers. One photographer has saved her life. By the way, if there were some mistakes she was going to make that might have ruined her day, and I've just taught her how to avoid those mistakes, is it exaggerating to say for her it feels like saving her life in that moment? Yeah. It's exaggerating. For her emotionally, it isn't. By the way, if you ruin a bride's wedding day, what will she say? You ruined my life. Right? So when you fix that day for her, she has a feeling of you saved my life. And so when she's picking photographers, she's going to go with the one who saved her life because she trusts them. Reciprocity. And then we want to do one more important thing inside step 5, and that's tell what we call an origin story. An origin story. Now, an origin story is that moment when you share with people, when you share with them your passion, why you do what you do. And I'm going to give you a good example of this. And guys, I wish I had 4 hours to talk to you about origin stories. It's one of the most fascinating subjects. I'm going to show you how it works, and then some of you are going to say, I don't know my origin story, and I don't know how to find it. And I'm going to try and give you some advice about that. I don't have time to do a long conversation on it, but I want to show you what one looks like. I want you to imagine that right now you're going to register a trademark for your company. Do you understand what I mean by registering a trademark? Yeah. So you're going to go register a trademark, and you've come to an event. It's a networking event. And somebody has told you there are 2 lawyers at the event that you can talk to. Great. So you go meet the first lawyer, and you walk up and say, I'm getting ready to register a trademark. And he says, oh, I can definitely help you with that. I went to law school. I graduated first in my class, and I've done many trademark applications. In fact, I've never failed. I'll definitely get it done for you. Sound good? You're in the 3%, so he does not have to market to you. You're already buying. So if he just gives you some solid stuff, okay, whatever. Maybe you don't even need to talk to the other lawyer. Sounds good so far, but let's talk to the other lawyer anyway. So we step over, we talk to the other lawyer. You say, you know, I'm thinking about registering a trademark for my company. He goes, oh, how cool, that's really fun. What? Well, it's really fun. I just love that stuff. What do you mean you love that stuff? Well, it's a little embarrassing really, but when I was 14 years old, I read about Disney losing the trademark on Mickey Mouse. It looked like they were going to lose their trademark on Mickey Mouse. And I remember even when I was 14, I thought, how greedy. You've had the trademark for 50 years, and now some people in Asia want to make their own Mickey Mouse things, and you want your piece of the money. I mean, that's just crazy. But then as I started reading the article, I realized it's not as simple as that. You see, the problem is if people start making Mickey Mouse products and they make them badly, then it's going to reflect badly on the Mickey Mouse brand, which is then going to reflect badly on the Disney brand. And I realize now protecting your intellectual property is like protecting your life. You can't let that stuff go. Anyway, I just got so fascinated with it. When I left high school, I went straight to law school so I could study intellectual property law. And that is all I do today because I love it. Are you in?
Oh, yes.
That's an origin story. An origin story is when you reveal to your prospects the most intimate passion you have for solving it. For a numbers person, here's how it works with a numbers person. You're sitting with your client. By the way, many accountants, they're numbers people often. And so they're sitting with clients to do an initial consultation. I had a client say this to me. She says, I sit with clients, and I usually sit with them for about 2 hours, and about half of them become clients. And she says, that's not good enough for me. I want more than half. I'm going, 50%, you're doing pretty good here, but okay, let's see if we can improve it. So I said, tell me, how does it work? And she goes, well, I look at their numbers and I give them some feedback, and that's that. And I said, do you ask them how they got involved in their business? And she said, no. I said, from now onwards, I want you to ask how they started their business. And the reason I want you to ask that is because it's going to make them ask you too. And when they ask you how you started your accounting practice, you're going to say this. You're going to be working away on their numbers, and they're going to go, what got you into accounting? And you're going to look up at them a little sheepishly, and you're going to go, well, I just have a thing for numbers. I hate to admit it. It's just like if I look at accounts and they're not balanced correctly, I can't sleep. When there's a spreadsheet and the formula's not right, I can't eat until I solve it. And in fact, here's where it's really embarrassing is when I'm finished with your accounts tonight, I'm going to go home and do Sudoku puzzles. That takes it from 50% to 90% because the people want somebody who's obsessive compulsive about numbers to do their accounts. Does that make sense? So we include an origin story. Again, I know some of you are thinking, God, I wouldn't even know what my origin story is right now. I'm absolutely happy to stick around and answer some questions and stuff later. I just want to give you this piece of advice. You look back, and you probably have several origin stories. You look back in your life, and you look back in the decisions in terms of the business you formed and the kind of products you serve. You look at the moments that gave you goosebumps, when you did something great for a client. Those are all clues to your origin story. You see, for me, it's two things. I was invited one day to do a talk for business. It was a room about this size. I'd never spoken on business before. They asked me to come and do a business talk, and I thought, what would be more boring? I sold my company so I didn't have to talk about it anymore. I just didn't even want to do it. But they hired me to do it, and I came up and I did the talk and I talked about business. And it was really, to me, I was like, but then my talk was an hour and a half, and then there was supposed to be about 20 minutes of questions and stuff. That went for like almost 2 hours. It almost went for 2 hours. And during that time, what I realized is that sometimes we arrive at a level of achievement or success in a given area of our life, and we forget what it was like before. And so I'd forgotten what it was like to be an entrepreneur that was worrying about cash flow and legislation and startup and hiring people. I'd forgotten how stressful it is and difficult. And in that moment, I realized something else, that I was really good at teaching it. By the way, are you going to remember stuff from tonight? Are you? Yeah. At least you're going to remember that. No, you'll remember stuff, and that's because, you see, there are some people who are really good at doing, and they're not good at teaching. Actually, so I had this good friend, Lee, and Lee, I'd go over to his house, and we'd play video games sometimes. I know we were in our 30s, we were never going to grow up. But I'd go over to his house and play video games, and the problem was, remember I mentioned to you that I was living in a video arcade? I'm really good at video games. It's not nice, it's bad. And so I was beating Lee on any game we played. He mostly liked to play Halo. He would practice all week. I didn't have it, so I wouldn't practice, and then I'd come and I'd beat him. And it would make him so mad. And then he'd say, well, we're going to play a different game, a game he's been practicing. And then we'd play, and I'd beat him again, and it would frustrate him. So finally he says, Eric, he says, do you play golf? I said, no, and he goes, good. So he takes me out to play golf, and we go out to this little 9-hole pitch and putt, and we play golf, and he beats me really badly, and we start playing pretty regularly, and he's beating me all the time, always by somewhere like 5 to 7 strokes, every time. I didn't care. It was like returning balance to the force. It's okay with me, except for one problem. He started teasing me about it. He started coming up at the front at the beginning of the game and saying, I wonder how many strokes I'll beat you by today. And it started bothering me. And so right around the same time, I was interviewing to hire a new sales director for my company. And so I'm getting ready to hire my new sales director, and what's really cool is I'm looking at all the list of stuff, and there's one guy, he's not going to be a good sales director, but he plays golf. So I hired him. And I was right, he was not a good sales director, but he was a great golfer, and he took me out golfing. And he's really good, and he keeps telling me what to do, telling me how to do it, and I'm understanding the theory, but it's not working. He tells me how to hold the club and how to swing, and it's just not working, and it's really frustrating me because some people that are good at doing are not good at teaching. And so finally I said, stop trying to teach me and just let me ask you questions. And so he said, okay. And so he got down and he got ready to make his swing and I said, stop. And he goes, what? And I said, why are you not lifting your head? You see, because he keeps saying to me, don't lift your head. How many of you golf? Yeah, don't lift your head, right? So he keeps saying, don't lift your head. And I'm like, well, I know you keep telling me not to lift my head, but I can't help it. I don't know why I'm doing it. I swing, I lift my head. It's just the thing I do. I said, why are you not lifting your head? And he goes, well, because I don't want to pull on the chain. What chain? What chain are you talking about? You never mentioned this chain before. And he goes, oh yeah, it's a little embarrassing. I said, I don't care. Tell me about the chain. He goes, well, he says, when I get down like this and I get ready to hit, I pretend that I pierced myself under here and under here. And then I connect it with a chain. And then I shorten up the chain. And then I don't lift my head. I was like, are you serious? So I got down, I put the ball down, I connected up my imaginary chain. Boom! Where did the ball go? I still couldn't lift my head. Because, you see, sometimes to make stuff really learnable, what we have to do is get into the mechanics of it and get into how we understand it. And so when you can find those moments for you, the moment when you realized that you wanted to do something for somebody, the moment you realized you wanted to have a bigger impact, when you share that with people, like that lawyer, the reaction's not small, is it? The one was a perfectly good lawyer. Suddenly that lawyer is forgotten because a good origin story was shared with you. And with all of this stuff done, you go to, I don't have room for it, so we'll do it here. You go to step 6. And that is teach them how to buy. You are going to teach them how to buy. And here's how it's going to work. Remember that we've already engaged them. We've created a sense of credibility and authority with them. They're listening to us. Let's go back to the brides. We've shown her how to completely save her day. She's grateful, and we've done that by telling her the 7 mistakes. We've only told her 6 so far. So now let's tell her the 7th mistake. And I want you to really get into the story with me for a minute. Put yourself in the bride's shoes for a minute. There were 7 mistakes. I've just told you 6 of them, and like half of them you were going to make. And you are thrilled you were here. You're thrilled. And now I say to you, I need to tell you about the 7th mistake, because it's not a mistake you regret for 1 week after your wedding. It's a mistake that's been proven to cause regret for up to 50 years after your wedding. Life magazine did a story on people that had been married for 50 years and asked them to think back to their wedding day and think if they had any regrets from their wedding day. And one of the most common regrets that people had from their wedding day, 50 years later, is there are 4 photographs you need to have from your wedding day. 4 pictures that you want to show your children, that you want to look at every few years, that you want to show your grandchildren and all your relatives. 4 photographs. There are 4 particular photographs. And I would like to take a moment right now to make sure that you get those 4 pictures. Would that be okay?
Yes.
What do you think she says?
Yes.
She's like, she probably doesn't answer either because she's just waiting. Yeah, damn right I want to know the answer. Okay. Step number 1, make sure that when you engage your photographer, you get somebody who's been doing wedding photography in the location of your wedding for at least 5 to 10 years. And the reason being is that the weather and the lighting conditions and the different locations are all different. So you want to make sure that you're getting somebody who has the experience to make sure you're going to get the right pictures. Make sure that the photographer you're using uses one of these approved cameras. There's a list of them here. They're all wedding cameras. They all cost $10,000 to $15,000. If you're talking to a photographer who doesn't have one of these cameras, they are not a serious wedding photographer. Item number 3, make sure that they have agreed relationships with the local resorts so you can go get your pictures taken. Because you don't want to have this happen, and it has happened to couples all the time, where the bride somehow convinces the groom to put the tux back on the final day to get one more round of sunset pictures. They're standing on the deck at the resort, getting ready to take their pictures, everything's set up, and all of a sudden, the resort manager walks over and says, what are you doing? Taking wedding pictures. You can't do that here without a permit. Because in Turks and Caicos, people like Roger Federer and Bill Clinton come to stay on the island, and so they don't let you bring cameras in and use them randomly on the deck of any resort you want. You need to have an agreement and a relationship with them. Is all of this good advice for her right now? Yeah, it's really good advice. What else is it? It's a description of me. You see, the other photographers don't fit that criteria. Now, if I tried to do that as step 1, I would never work. It would never work. But because I first built credibility, because I first built authority, because I created this relationship and rapport, I am now teaching her how to buy, and I'm describing me. And even if I don't close the sale right now, even if I don't, let's say I'd leave it right there. It was a landing page, it was a video, so I couldn't do anything about it, done. 3 months later, she's now shopping for a photographer. Does she now know how to buy one? Yeah, she picks up the phone. Yes, hi there, I'm interested in your wedding photography services. No, I don't need a quote, I have a few questions first, because I'm an educated buyer. My first question is, how long have you been doing business in the Turks and Caicos Islands? 6 months, congratulations, good luck. 6 months is not long enough. She now knows that. Or, okay, 6 months, wow, okay. What kind of camera do you use? I had no idea that Mexico was manufacturing cameras now. I'm kind of kidding around here, but the point is that she now has the right questions to ask to make sure she will never buy from one of those competitive companies ever. And now some of you might be thinking, whoa, that's really obvious. Like, they'll know what you're doing. I am telling you they won't. I did this talk in Germany for 1,500 entrepreneurs. It was a big event, 3 days, only 2 English speakers at the whole event. Me at the beginning, Richard Branson at the end. Everybody else is in German. I get up there to do my talk. I teach what I just taught you. And then at the end of it, I go, well, so some of you would probably like some help with your marketing. So I'm going to teach you how to get yourself a good business mentor or a good marketing mentor. The first thing you need to do is make sure that if you hire a business coach or you hire a business mentor, make sure that they've actually had a business. You'd be surprised how many business coaches have never had a business. Now, they might be able to coach you a little, but they're not going to be able to mentor you. They're not going to be able to, you got to make sure they've had a business. In fact, item number 2, make sure that they've not only had one business, that they've had at least 2, because lightning can strike. Luck can happen. But anybody who's started 2 successful businesses, that's no longer luck, that's a system. That's the coach you want to have. Item number 3, make sure that the mentor or coach that you hire is somebody who's handled international business, because you are in Germany, in this case, I said to them, and you're in the middle of all this area, and you're probably wanting to do business with other countries. So if your mentor does not understand different tax laws and different legal issues and different cultural issues, you've got the wrong mentor. And then suddenly there's a woman in the 4th row, and she starts giggling. She's my wife. Because it was only after the 4th point that she realized I was describing myself. And then I told the audience what I was doing. I said, do you want to know why she's laughing? And they're all like, yeah. I said, because everything that I just did was describing me. And they all busted out. Germans, no kidding. They busted out laughing. And the reason is that it does not feel like you're selling. It feels like you're advising. And it happens to be very good advice. And so one of the things you want to do, get your little group of people together one day, go for lunch, and say, guys, I need a list of the things that make me special. So I can give that list to my clients to make sure they only buy from me after I've done the whole inceptive delivery. Does this make sense? Are you glad you learned this? I want you to understand something. My friend in Finland walked up to me and said it added 100,000. I have clients that have done much better numbers than that. I'm mentioning him to you because I didn't even work with him. He just took what I taught him, 100,000 euros. Extra profit, not sales. So I want you to know that this is, this is not just a theory. This is not one day you came to a talk. I told you guys at the beginning, this for many of you will be a day you remember. Do you now believe that might be true?